kills, but they're not that easy to put together. It just the volume of good 1-mana cards that Alan has here is going to be a challenge for Bastecki.
And it gets even more difficult because Alan's on the play.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And the play versus draw, I think, is a big difference for how likely is Snapcaster flashing back one of the 1-mana spells going to come up in the game.
Well, Bastecki at least looks relaxed in the Future Magic areas. He says a little hello to everybody at home, and we are underway here in the quarterfinals. It'll be a Nile Spellbomb there for Zach Allen. And we'll head back over to Alex Bastecki.
I mean, there are a couple cards in Allen's list here that are not great in the matchup. You know, Logic Knot's a little suspect. The Esper Charm is probably the first cards to get cut. But you just go up and down the list here. Supreme Verdict, Path to Exile, Negate, Fatal Push, Cryptic Command, Cast Down, Nile Spellbomb. That's a really good roster of cards for interacting with 4-color Shadow.
Bastecki's going to start his quarterfinal off with a Verdant Catacomb, sacrifice that, fall down to 17. He's, of course, going to be taking plenty of damage because Death Shadow is in the deck. Get a Stomping Ground, and we'll see which 1-drop he has. Many options available here for Bastecki. And he'll go with Monastery Swiftspear to get this game started. Follow that up with a Mishra's Bauble. Trigger the Prowess, of course. Take a look at the top card. See exactly what Alan is working with, and now we have an idea. And it'll be an attack here for 2, bringing Zach Allen down to 16.
Bastecki's got a little bit of flourish to his game.
A little bit. He's confident in there.
Yeah. He enjoys getting into the red zone. I can tell. There's a visceral joy.
I can respect that. As a Hallowed Fountain is the play here from Zach Allen. We head back over to Alex Bastecki now. Yeah, the Invitational that he won, beating Stephen Mann in the finals. I think maybe some players may have thought that was a fluke, but that was certainly not the case. This guy can play some Magic.
Stephen Mann back this weekend.
Yeah.
Has not been attending many events lately. Came up for this one. And I believe finished in the top 16.
I believe. Wouldn't surprise me.
Good return.
Wooded Foothills the play here for Bastecki.
I had the joy of watching him get locked by Zur's Weirding.
Joy is an interesting word to use.
Yeah.
You used it on purpose. I know.
You know, when I'm doing the life totals in the off-camera match, I try to keep my composure. Don't want to be rooting for anyone. Don't want to give away any information.
Of course.
But I did smile when S-Man had to pick up and read Zur's Weirding.
Bastecki looks like he might be making a move here. Mutagenic Growth on that Swift Spear, getting it some more damage.
Bastecki's got to take some risks in this matchup. It's just so... Nope, can't. Yep. Can't get that one.
Well,
it's hard to fetch with this deck. Not all your fetches get all your duels. It's not often the case.
Players in the 330 standard challenge.
Most decks in Modern, it's just, whatever. Maybe not all your fetches can get all your basics. It's the case with this at Phoenix, but...
Now Bastecki's got to figure out which land he actually wants to get. That makes me wonder, did he fetch wrong on the first turn?
Oh, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I've played this deck before.
Yeah.
If you messed up the second one, you probably messed up the first one. Because usually 2 fetches can get you most of the way there on your mana requirements. Sometimes you get a little jammed up in terms of, being able to cast the spells you want to all on the right turn, but you can at least cast everything. But not now. Anyway, Bastecki's got to take some risky lines in this matchup here. If he's got an opportunity to, fire off a Become Immense here, it's not going to get easier in the face of the Nile Spellbomb.
All right, there's a Shadow. There's a Nicodle on the passing of the turn. Now Spellbomb's going to remove the graveyard. So now I wonder what's going on in Zach Allen's hand. Does he have removal spells? Is he relying on Supreme Verdict? That might be too slow this game.
Well, if he can play some defense next turn, if he's got some removal spell, then Supreme Verdict should be good.
That's a Field of Ruin. There's another Nile Spellbomb. I do agree that Nile Spellbomb can be good in some spots. It can be pretty poor in some others. That's not exactly what the doctor's ordering right now.
For example, if Allen has a Negate in hand, it's very likely he gets out of this turn, and then Supreme Verdict is good. Now, of course, there's Bolts and Swift Spears, Bastecki has some hope of being able to fire back if he gets in a good hit this turn, but he's definitely lost some points here with that Wild Nikado not turned on all the way. The Wild Nikado no White Source experience watching Alex Bastecki is giving me flashbacks to my Invitational Top 8 featuring Plateau and Kurdape in heavy rotation.
Oh, dude.
Wasteland Zoo.
Yeah, that's what it was.
My Kurdape was not a 2-3 that often.
You take that story to the grave. You don't tell people that.
No, I love talking about the top 8s I have with just unplayable decks.
Of which there are many.
There are so many. The Walking Corpse deck.
Yeah, oh yeah. Oh yeah, there are many.
So many with Burn, Legacy Burn.
What do we got, a Snapcaster Mage here? Well, this could be good news for Alex Bastecki.
You got to be, this is a shot. Bastecki's hand can kill from here a non-trivial amount of the time. And Alan's throwing it out there. I gotta believe, or at least hope, that Supreme Verdict the follow-up here, because he kept 7, I believe, and has had a underwhelming set of turns thus far in the game. Has not played a removal spell.
I think Mutagenic Growth Teamer Battle Rage is the kill, right?
So the Swiss Spear gets up to 4, or either one gets up to 4. You'd want to do the Swiss Spear if you're playing another spell. Mm-hmm. So then that gets you up to 5, 10, 12. Yeah. If you have Mutagenic Growth plus Teamer Battle Rage, then I believe it's lethal.
Which I think he has. I don't know if he sees the kill or not.
Because the Swiss Spear goes up to 5 power with the Teamer Battle Rage plus the Mutagenic Growth.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's Dismember.
It's Dismember, okay.
Yeah, that looked like Mutagenic Growth.
It did.
Yeah.
It did. Perhaps he should have dismembered before blocks. And he's shaking his head a little bit. I think he's a little bit frustrated with his mistake.
Yeah, that's
a big one.
But Alan still has not done anything. Has not played a removal spell. And if he doesn't have a 4th land here, what's the catch-up here? It's Supreme Verdict, ideally. Failing that Cryptic Command, you get to tap and draw and go through the next turn. If Alan doesn't have a 4th land here, he's in a ton of trouble because the only thing that he could use to defend himself would be multiple removal spells. And there's reason to believe that isn't present in Alan's hand because he hasn't cast a removal spell in the first 3 turns.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Bastecki, that's a pretty big error there, missing out on that Dismember before blocks.
Oh, it's huge.
It's a game-winning. It's a game-winning Dismember.
Right, because he gets to also fire off the bolt.
Yeah, and the Death Shadow would have hit for 5. 13 minus 8 is 5, and then 3 damage as well. So the 8 damage that he's missing would have come through there had he dismembered before Zach Allen was given the opportunity to block. Now, Zach Allen does not have a 4th land, so he still might get out of this alive.
It's possible that Bastecki was just on cruise control because you have a Teamer Battle Rage. You don't really care about a 1 toughness blocker.
Sure.
But yeah, you should have, of course you would want to dismember before blocks.
Goblet Shrine's going to enter the battlefield untapped. That's going to make Wild Nikado a little bit larger. And here comes Monastery Swift Spear.
So now you got lethal through a removal spell, and with a Teamer Battle Rage backed up, if Alan taps out for a mixture of things, then you go over the top.
This is a Snapcaster Mage. Still no reason to move. Okie dokie. There is the Teamer Battle Rage, and Alex Bastecki is going to win game number 1 here over Zach Allen. I think he's going to take a moment to take a breath. I don't think he's happy with how he played that game.
Yeah, the fetch for the wrong duel, from experience, it's the hardest part about managing this sort of deck. The Dismember, I think, was kind of just a straight bungle, probably caused by having Teamer Battle Rage in hand and being like, okay, whatever, go ahead and block.
Yeah.
And then pulling back the lens a little bit and being like, oh, it's actually bad for me to fire it off right now. So now we wait.
Yeah, we do wait indeed. Zach Allen's going to go to the sideboard. Down a game here over Alex Bastecki. As Bastecki did get the game 1 win. 4-color Shadow up a game here over Esper Control. And you know, one of the things I do like is players that do take the opportunity to do this. You know, there will be times where you're just not happy with how you play a game and maybe you just need to refocus a little bit, and that's what Bastecki's taking the moment to do, which I think is smart because I don't think that was his best played game of the tournament. I don't think he'd be in the top 8 if he were playing games like that regularly. He was able to escape those mistakes and still get the win, which is a very big deal.
Yeah, you got to feel, you know, pretty fortunate about how that one broke there because Alan was given an extra turn there in a spot where if he has land number 4 and either Supreme Verdict or even Cryptic Command, I think the game starts getting really dicey there for Bastecki. Fortunately for him, Alan didn't have a 4th land, and because up until that point he hadn't really done anything, that was enough for Bastecki to get over the finish line.
Well, let's go over the sideboards here, and we will start with Zach Allen, as he is getting ready here for game number 2 as the member of Team RIW. You've got 2 Unmoored Egos, 2 Thoughtseize, 2 Surgical Extraction, 2 Kalidas Trader Get, 2 Collective Brutality, 2 Celestial Purge, 3 1-ofs here in Detention Sphere, Dispel, and Supreme Verdict. A lot of options for our Esper Control players.
So for me, at the top of the list, the 2 copies of Celestial Purge, the Dispel, and the Detention Sphere. Beyond that, you have some really appealing 4-mana cards, and I don't know if the 3rd copy of Supreme Verdict or the Kalidas are better than, let's say, Cryptic Command or I guess the other copy of Supreme Verdict. Alan has some cards in his deck I would say are not very good in the matchup. Esper Charm and Logic Knot at the top of the list there. But those cards are cheaper than Supreme Verdict and Kalidas, and I worry about having too many 4s in the deck. There's a lot of pressure on Alan to just interact early on in the game. So I like part of the reason I like the Celestial Purchase, the Dispel, and the Detention Sphere is that they're cheap and effective. The Supreme Verdict and the Kalidas I could be talked in or out of, but Alan needs to remain conscious of his curve.
Other side of things here for Bastecki as he's returned to the table now. You see 3 copies of Collective Brutality, 2 Hooting Mandrills, 2 Fatal Push, 2 Faith Shield, 2 Assassin's Trophy, an Inquisition of Kozilek of Duress, a Claim to Fame, and an Ancient Grudge.
So Bastecki's combo kills, the Temur Battle Rage, Become Immense kind of stuff, gets a lot hard. It's in general very hard for him to execute in the face of so much interaction. The Minogenetic Growth you can pretty safely cut. So the cards I'm interested here, I like the Duress and the Inquisition of Kozilek. Just more discard seems good here. If you want to get away from some of the combo stuff, you could make your Delve output Hooting Mandrills instead. I don't think it's great in the matchup, but if Bastecki just thinks the combo flourishes are too much of a long shot, you could try to stabilize the deck a little bit with some more threats. I like the Faith Shields here as well. Plenty of interaction on the other side of the table that stops for 1 mana.
Well, those are the options there for both players, and they're going to get ready here for a second game. Of course, we do have updates for you about what's going on in other matches. We'll be happy to bring them to you. But for now, I do want to take a moment and talk about SCG Game Night for the final time here this weekend. We got a new creature here for you in April, and it's it's a doozy. What this we called this a weasel?
A ferret, maybe?
I think you called it a weasel yesterday.
Maybe a weasel.
Yeah, I think it was a weasel.
What's up?
That has
Fox in the hen house.
It's got a dagger ready to go after those chickens in the background there. It looks pretty hungry too. Licking its lips, I didn't notice before.
So if you want to get some more information, you can head over to go.starcgames.com/game night. Find out more information. The short of it is, stores can sign up for game night. We send them these kits with the tokens and the sleeves. Players then show up for game night, whatever day of the week the store holds it, and the stores can distribute out these prizes to their players who show up for game night. We come out with a new kit each month, so make sure to be staying tuned to see what the new kits are. You can head over to go.starcgames.com/game night to find out more information and find the game night closest to you. And stores, if you want to get signed up for game night, just contact your Starcy Games in-store play representative.
Cluck and Dagger for the month of April, folks. Again, our other matches that are taking place right now, if you're just joining us, we've got Matthew Dilk, number 1 overall seed, who's been on a tear here on the SCG Tour with Amulet Titan, going up against Noah Strassler, who is playing Grixis Death Shadow. You got number 4 overall seed, Drake Sasser, playing Is It Phoenix against Sam Lawrence, playing Amulet Titan. And then we've got Liam Daly playing Humans against James Mangus, playing Is It Phoenix. That's our 3 versus 6. And you're watching our number 2 overall seed here, Zach Allen with Esper Control. That's not a typo. Against Alex Bastecki playing 4-color Death Shadow. Again, that's not a typo. 2 decks maybe you didn't expect to see coming in, but are doing very well in the hands of players that really like to play them. So he prepared for game number 2 here. Zach Allen will be on the play. He did not have the interaction he needed in that first game to be able to win it. Didn't see Path Exile, didn't see Fatal Push. Saw too many copies of Nile's Spellbomb is what you saw. So we'll see how this shakes out. And Zach Allen will take a look at his opening hand. And he is going to send it back. He is not happy with what he sees. Alex Bastecki, well, we'll see if he's happy with what he's looking at.
So something that's nice for Bastecki here, he's got 5 cards in his main deck that are pretty explicitly bad, in the 2 Dismembers and the 3 Mutagenic Growths. And you could also sell me on Lightning Bolt not being great here either. So that's an opportunity to sideboard in a lot of these cards that I thought maybe were a little bit fringe pretty comfortably.
That's fair. That's fair. Bastecki taking a long look at his hand.
I could even buy Claim to Fame coming in. It's a little sketchy with the Nile Spellbombs being so present in Allen's deck, but there's enough wiggle room that he could get that in there if he wanted to.
Looks like Bastecki is happy enough with his hand that he will keep it. Zach Allen will be looking at 6 cards here in just a moment. Some huge shifts in the SCG Tour Season 1 leaderboard going to take place here. If things end today and no one gets any more points, it'll be Matthew Dilks that'll be leading things, but he could also carve out a pretty nice lead if he's able to advance to the semifinals or potentially the finals here this weekend in Cleveland.
Allen now going to 5. I'm curious what kind of hand was kept at game number 1.
I am too.
Because to just not have your 4th land drop and not play any of your 1-mana spells
makes you wonder.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder. Maybe a little too much reliance on Nile Spellbomb in that game.
Right. I mean, if you have the 2 Nile Spellbombs and some land drops, I think you can probably talk yourself into, well, the Nile Spellbomb is some interaction, and I got a lot of looks at a removal spell. You got that alongside a Snapcaster Mage, and you're kind of rolling. But Allen's draw really didn't come together. Did not have his 4th mana, and never found any removal spell to pair with the Snapcasters he drew.
We're heading back to Zach Allen now as he takes a look at 5 cards. It'd be a tough way for his tournament to end, but his deck does have plenty of good cards for this matchup in it, and he will keep. Now it's time to scry. He will leave that on top. Start things off with a tapped Ravnica Shockland. Looks like it is a Watery Grave.
I think that's a Gala Shrine?
I don't know, man.
I don't know, man, either.
Okay.
No one...
Those things should be banned. It's rare that I say tapped Ravnica Shockland.
We should have a graphic that, because we're doing all these tech updates. It's so different now than it was even a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Where if someone plays one of those expeditions, we just automatically replace the artwork on the screen.
I like that. I like that. That's worth the investment.
Right.
I like that. What is that?
Yeah, that looks...
No, you're right.
Here's the thing. You pull up the art on the screen, blown up, and you're still not sure if that's the right one. Like,
you don't know.
Probably, I guess.
You don't know. Swift Spear here for Alex Bastecki as he falls down to 17. Mutagenic Growth. We're going to get a little bit of damage in.
This is my language.
Yeah. oh, shields are down? Shields are down, huh? Let's get some beatdowns going.
0 mana Lava Spike?
Yeah.
Pay 1 for that.
It'll be an island, along with that Godless Shrine for Zach Allen as we head back over to Alex Bastecki. Godless Shrine for him. So red, green, white, black for Alex. He's got all the colors of the rainbow.
Achievement unlocked.
Yes. Looks like he might be leading off with a Thoughtseize, and he is. Let's take a look at the hand. Supreme Verdict, Detention Sphere, Snapcaster Mage, Field of Ruin.
Totally serviceable 5-card hand. Some interaction and a big card to play towards.
And the ability to cast all your spells, too.
But not a lot in the way of defense. Let's say you take the Snapcaster Mage out of this hand, and you have a threat to follow up with, then Allen's very likely to just tap out for Detention Sphere, and that might be a window to end the game. Alternatively, you can take the Detention Sphere here and leave Alan with a Snapcaster Mage that has nothing to do and a Supreme Verdict that he can't cast.
Yeah, at this stage, Supreme Verdict going to be real tough to cast. Cycle Street Wraith now.
Well, the Field of Ruin gives you the hope of, at that point, almost any of your fourth lands, you can cobble it together by searching for the appropriate basic.
It gets you closer.
But, does Alan even get to a fourth turn? Even if he draws a land, it's going to be hard.
So Spear's going to get in here for 2. Bastecki will pass the turn back. Yeah. Not the explosive start like he had in the last game as we head back over to Zach Allen, who has a Snapcaster Mage, Supreme Verdict, and a Field of Ruin in hand.
Looks like Bastecki with Hooting Mandrills in hand, but a card short in the graveyard of being able to play it that turn.
Yep. There is that Field of Ruin.
So, Bastecki with 1 forest in the deck. That's the only basic. And Alan knows this, deck lists are public. So he can go after the Godless Shrine here, which is something he wants to do anyway because he needs to smooth out his mana to be able to cast Supreme Verdict. And also cut Bastecki off of black mana and Wild Mikado Pumps. So heads up play there from Alan. If Bastecki doesn't have a land drop for next turn, he's much more limited in the range of cards he can cast.
It's an island there for Zach Allen off of the Field of Ruin activation for Bastecki, as Patrick did mention. A basic forest is only basic in the deck. But now that means that Bastecki can play the Hooting Mandrills, as there are enough cards in the graveyard. And we will go back over to Alex Bastecki.
And because Alan got an island there, when he needs 2 white mana to be able to cast a Supreme Verdict, that indicates to me that Alan drew the land. He's got Supreme Verdict rolled up for next turn, because if you didn't, you would probably go grab a Plains out of the deck to give you the maximum range of lands you could draw to cast your Supreme Verdict, because you were already on Godless Shrine plus Island.
And he has basic Plains in the deck, I assume?
He has 1 Plains.
Okay.
So if I'm in Bastecki's position here, I'm going into this turn assuming that he drew a land on the previous turn, and he's going to be able to cast Supreme Verdict next turn. I think Bastecki's going to err on the side of being very conservative with whatever he does on this turn. Probably try to leave the Hooting Mandrills back in his hand to have something to rebuild with, assuming that next turn is going to involve Supreme Verdict. But Bastecki still needs to put another thing on the battlefield to try to induce it. So you want to do something small that's good enough to get the Supreme Verdict out, but not so big that you have nothing to rebuild with.
I think Wild Mikado checks that box.
Yeah.
There is the Wild Mikado, so we head back over to Bastecki, who's drawn a fetch land here.
Fetch land's a big draw. Now, he doesn't have a Godless... He's only got 1 Godless Shrine in the deck, I believe. So he can't... ideally here, that's probably the land you would go get, but you can get a Blood Crypt or an Overgrown Tomb and unlock black mana that way.
Of course, our viewers at home can take a look at the deck list as well that both these players are playing right now on Cardboard Live. Big shout out to them for the fantastic extension they have on Twitch. As there is Hootie. Old Hooting Mandrills. Card we'll take a look at here. We don't see it a ton here in Modern, but it is a 4/4 Trampler. It is pretty big, and it's going to cause Zach Allen to change the way he plays this game a little bit. Also, can't be killed by Fatal Push.
And it's also just, when you're playing against so many paths and Fatal Pushes, the combo stuff, you got to ease off of it at least a little bit. Now, Bastecki has left in Mutagenic Growth, so he's at least got a little bit of that dimension left. It would not surprise me if the Become Immenses were the cards among the cards that were boarded out here.
Yeah, we know he's got a copy of Teamer Battle Rage in hand, so he's elected to leave that in the deck as well. Zach Allen going to start his turn with a copy of Opt. He'll scry 1. Let's see where that top card's going to go for the Michigan native and representative of Team RIW here in this top 8. It's going to stay on top of the deck. So that'll be the draw. And keep in mind, we know that Zach Allen has a copy of Snapcaster Mage in hand. That's all we know at this stage. The rest of these cards are a mystery. Bastecki was thinking about doing a little something there to start his turn, but he's going to hold off. Now there's a copy of Mishra's Bauble. That'll resolve. Bastecki's going to target himself in case he doesn't like what he sees. He can fetch it away with the Bloodstained Mire. A little bit of deck manipulation here in Alex's deck.
Now, low chance here for Alan to play the Snapcaster Mage because, one, doesn't really want to tap out. Two, he only had a single blue mana up, so he didn't have the option to Snapcaster Mage Opt, which is the only spell available to him.
All right, there's a path. And the Mandrills will be taken care of, and no land to find. I'm sure Zach Allen knows. And what that also means, too, is there's another path on the way because of the Snapcaster Mage.
Yeah.
Bobble will draw Bastecki a card, and Zach Allen will draw a card for his turn. That's Slow Trip, as there's a Hallowed Fountain that enters the battlefield tap. Remember, Zach Allen on a mulligan of 5 this game, and the life totals are tied. Looks like Mutagenic. Actually, it's a Tarmogoyf if that was the draw. Pardon me.
But Alan definitely making a go of it here. You know about the Snapcaster Mage. Now there's a path to go get with it. And a lot of big draws in the deck, too. And Bastecki's hand looks like it's getting jammed up just a little bit here. I think multiple copies of Teamer Battle Rage at this point. Not clear if he's going to be able to convert those inside of combat.
Here is Monastery Swiftspear. And the 1-2 with haste and prowess is going to get into the red zone. This will be a Snapcaster Mage. And this will be that path to exile. So Swiftspear bites the dust. That might be what Bastecki wanted to have happen because he has a copy of Tarmogoyf in hand. So he's going to sacrifice the Bloodstained Mire, take at least 1. It's actually got to be 3 because he has no more basics left.
That's really surprising to me that Alan wouldn't at least block with the Snapcaster Mage and put the ball in Bastecki's court to play a spell. Because two things can happen. If you block and Bastecki goes, okay, I'll pass with 4 damage, you always have the out of just pathing there anyway. Because, if you want to keep the Snapcaster Mage around. There's a possibility that Bastecki plays a spell, in which case that's good that you can path. It's also possible that you want to just trade off there if Bastecki passes back to you and just burn through his turn, because he's not going to follow up with a creature that turn if you have a path floating until the end of the next one.
Also true.
So it seems like there's no cost to at least blocking and put the ball in Bastecki's court to maybe make a mistake.
And when your opponent's on a mulligan to 5, you might need him to make a mistake to catch up.
Right. So I'm surprised that Alan didn't even go through the motions of putting a block together there. It seems like it's free, and it gives Bastecki maybe some margin to make a mistake.
We head back over to Zach Allen now, who is on that mulligan of 5, but is doing a nice job of catching up this game. And, of course, would love to get to a third one. He'll simply pass the turn back, maybe a little bit frustrated, as Bastecki will draw a card. Zach Allen's facing down a 6/7 Tarmogoyf, folks. He's going to need a Fatal Push or something similar to kind of work through it. Now, Thoughtseize is a pretty darn good draw, and Path to Exile isn't a bad draw either. That's going to take care of the Tarmogoyf, and now the Thoughtseize in hand and resolving momentarily. So Tarmogoyf will get exiled, no basic to search up. We'll see what's in the hand. It is a copy of Supreme Verdict, so Zach Allen is cardless at this stage. And you talked about being jammed up on Teamer Battle Rages. Bastecki has 2 copies in his hand. Snapcaster Mage is going to come across. I believe Bastecki is going to fall down to 2 here. We'll get confirmation on our life totals in just a moment as Alex will draw a card. I think he may have picked up a copy of Mutagenic Growth, and I think his hand is just all spells he can't really do anything with. So my eyes don't deceive me.
I mean, can he claim something in the... He's got like at least a Nakatl, maybe a Swiftspear to get back.
All right. We can take a look at Claim. Claim wants to get back. Looks like maybe Wild Nakatl. It's decided upon a Swiftspear, actually. Return target creature card with converted mana cost 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. In the aftermath here on Fame, target creature gets +2/+0 and gains haste until end of turn. Interesting.
I mean, I think Bastecki needs to try to block out here and then combo kill next turn.
I think that's the goal, and hope that Zach Allen hasn't found anything, but Zach Allen certainly did find something. It was a top deck Path to Exile, and I think he can't believe he won that one on a mulligan to 5, but he did. Zach Allen and Alex Bastecki are all tied up as they get ready for a third and final between Esper Control and 4-Color Dust Shadow.
Another thing to kind of keep in mind watching these games here, the Field of Ruins look innocuous, and they're likely for other matchups here. It does matter. Bastecki's deck is not that hard to cut off of certain colors of mana, and also to kind of create these choke points in terms of total mana, because he only has the one basic. Allen's loaded up on Path to Exile, so it doesn't take very long in the game, as we saw in game number 2, for Bastecki to run out of things to go find. And you compound that with the fact that Allen can be very aggressive, in particular going after black mana, and Bastecki can get into spots where you saw he was kind of at the end there. He had Claim to Fame and Temur Battle Rage and Mutagenic Growth, and it looked like these pieces where maybe if you had enough mana, you could put everything together all in one turn. But Allen was very aggressive in pinning down volume of mana and specific colors of mana, and Bastecki was just stranded there at the end with cards he could never convert.
It's a tough loss there for Bastecki, who I think thought he might be getting that game. He still has clearly left in quite a few combo elements at this stage with those Temur Battle Rages and Mutagenic Growth still in the deck. I do think Become Immense has probably come out, and I am a little surprised, I guess, to see the Hooting Mandrills in, though I guess the fact that they do fade Fatal Push, there's some value there.
Well, it depends on what you want the deck to be about. You can either try to run Allen down early and try to combo out. I think that's a tough way to do it with Allen having so much cheap interaction. The other way is to play a somewhat longer game. The risk with the longer game is that you're giving Allen the opportunity to get to 4 mana, and he can do a lot of bad things too once he has 4 mana. But I think the Become Immenses against Fatal Push, Path to Exile, there's a sideboarded Dispel that could easily be in Allen's deck. I think it's probably better to go with the Hooting Mandrills and give Allen more of an opportunity to get to 4 mana.
Well, these players will shuffle up here for game number 3. Alex Bastecki will be on the play, a place I'm sure he likes to be in with his deck and in this format. But before we get there, we got to stop by here real quick. It's the StarCityGames.com spring sale that's taking place for just a little bit longer. You can head over to go.starcitygames.com/sale. We, of course, have a new sale every Monday at 11 a.m. East Coast time. You can save on Lord of the Undead, Overwhelming Forces, Crackling Drake, Vigor, and a whole bunch more. Once again, go to go.starcitygames.com/sale. And heck, you might as well just bookmark that because it changes so often. Don't want to miss out on any of them. And if you're like Patrick, you don't.
I'm right there. I'm right there. On top of it always.
Couple updates here for you. We got Sam Lawrence in our 5 seed, defeated Drake Sasser, our number 4 seed. That's Amulet Titan taking down, is it Phoenix? That's one prediction for you. You had that there, and then we got Matthew Dilks, number 1 overall seed, taking care of Noah Strassler 2-0. Dilks really starting to climb up this leaderboard here, folks. He might be hoisting a trophy at the end of this weekend. He is so proficient with Amulet Titan. So hard to beat. Might be the best Amulet Titan player out of the bunch. And he is running all over this tournament. Number 1 overall seed, Matthew Dilks. Number 4 on the SCG Tour leaderboard coming in. Number 1 as of this moment. He's looking to maybe expand that lead. He's on through to an Amulet Mirror in our semifinals. Jerry T and Brian G will be bringing you that one. Trust me. So our final match here in the quarterfinals is between Zach Allen and Alex Bastecki. They are in game number 3. It's Esper Control against 4-Color Shadow. Bastecki starting this game off with a fetch for a Stomping Ground untapped. He's going to fall down to 17. It looks like he might be getting a little swifty with it with a Monastery Swiftspear. Going to bring Zach Allen down to at least 18 as we'll see a Mishra's Bauble activation. Bastecki puts a die on top of his deck to make sure he draws. Now here's the attack for 2. Allen's going to fall down to 18. And it looks like that's going to be it for Bastecki's turn. Bastecki will draw with the slow trip. Zach Allen will draw for his turn. And this game 3 is very much underway. Zach Allen will play a Flooded Strand and pass the turn back over to Alex Bastecki. His second turn of the game for the former Invitational champion. Starts with the Mishra's Bauble. And now Swiftspear wants to come across for 2 once again. That will work. Zach Allen will take that 2. He'll fall down to 16. What kind of follow-up does Bastecki have? It looks like he has a copy of Wild Mikado. That will resolve. And Bastecki will pass the turn back. He is stuck on 1 land, as Zach Allen's going to sacrifice that Flooded Strand. And get himself a Godless Shrine. And now Bastecki will target Zach Allen with the Mishra's Bauble to see what he'll be drawing for his turn. Now we'll head back over to Zach Allen. The slow trip is done resolving. Now Allen will start his second turn of the game. It's a Glacial Fortress to go along with that Godless Shrine. We head back over to Bastecki, who's still looking for a second land to get the ball rolling here. I'm sure he'd love a white source to go along with that Wild Mikado. Doesn't have any black mana yet either for a deck that does have some access to discard. Well, yeah, there's the Godless Shrine.
Godless Shrine is the perfect land here, too. It's the plains you need for the Wild Mikado, plus the black mana you need for whatever black cards you have in your hand.
Yep. And didn't even have to fetch for it, so not a bad draw there for Bastecki. Now, how does he want to navigate the turn? Had some difficulties with navigation in game 1, but was still able to get the W to his credit. Now here's an attack for 4, and Zach Allen's going to have to start making a move here. He's going to start with Fatal Push. I guess Bastecki does have access to Faith Shield after sideboard. I forgot about that. All right. There is a hit for 1, it looks like, with the Swiftspear. And now here's an attempt at a Tarmogoyf. Tarmogoyf will resolve. We'll head back over to Zach Allen. So Zach Allen doesn't have the combination of Fatal Push and Path that turn. At least it doesn't look that way. Maybe he didn't care to Path the Swiftspear.
Well, I think we would have seen it on the Tarmogoyf.
That's fair. This is a Field of Ruin activation to take care of that Godless Shrine. And the decks that Field of Ruin is good in, it's pretty darn good.
Yep.
Not every deck can play it, of course, but in this matchup, it is very, very nice for Zach Allen.
Yeah, I mean, it is an issue for Bastecki here of his access to black mana has been limited, generally speaking. And, you know, he actually has black cards he's trying to cast post-board. He's got white cards, too. The Face Shield, assuming that's been brought in.
Oof, Path Exile now on the Tarmogoyf. And Zach Allen's able to make this play because he knows that Bastecki can't really do anything else. Now, this is a little strange to put the shields down in the fashion that Zach Allen has because it's not impossible for him to die right now.
Yeah, but if I've seen Hooting Mandrills out of the board, I am going to bet that Bastecki has sort of de-emphasized the combo kills.
Fair?
I mean, he would need to have third land plus Team of Battle Rage plus Become Immense. And that seems way less likely to me than just Bastecki plays a white source of mana and has a Face Shield for your path.
Mm-hmm. Next up for Bastecki is a copy of Wild Mikado and just a passing of the turn. So it looks like Field of Ruin did some real work this game. And this might be a supreme verdict, and it is. So Zach Allen's going to clean up those 2 creatures. We're going to head back over to Alex Bastecki, who's in some trouble now, folks. He's got some mana issues. Doesn't have the colors of mana that he needs because of that Field of Ruin. That Sacred Foundry isn't bad, but that's not black mana. There is Swiftspear. Here's an attack for 1. Allen's going to fall down to 12. Bastecki does have that copy of Claim to Fame in hand. That might matter at some stage this game.
But no black mana. And that's a lot of Bastecki's best cards in the matchup.
The longer we go, the worse it gets for Alex Bastecki. Zach Allen is playing the control deck here, and he's doing a nice job of controlling things, and he's getting only more difficult here for Alex, as there's a copy of Kaya Orzhov Usurper. Faith Shield is going to protect that Monastery Swiftspear from Kaya. The Usurper. How does Bastecki move forward on this turn? Looks like he picked up a copy of Thoughtseize. Not ideal, but I think he may have actually picked up a copy of Verdant Catacombs, pardon me.
I mean, yep, that gets you to black mana.
It does. No Godless Shrine, of course, to fetch up, but Blood Crypt, Overgrown Tomb, that is black mana.
We got Claim to Fame in hand. I think Bastecki's trying to do a check to see if he has a way to kill Allen this turn. Because you get 2 spells. That's plus the Swiftspear itself, that's 3. Nicodle, 6. 2 from Fame gets you to 8.
Probably can't,
Not quite there. Not quite
probably
there.
can't ignore that Kaya.
Yeah, I'm just seeing if he actually had 12 points rolled up.
Leading it off with a Thoughtseize.
And if you don't, then you can just Thoughtseize here and take care of the Kaya.
Jason Teferi. It's a Planeswalker party. War of the Spark getting here a little bit early. Kaya on the battlefield. Jason Teferi, 2 of the best Planeswalkers of all time in hand, along with an island. I'm curious which Planeswalker you select with this Thoughtseize.
It doesn't seem like the difference can be that huge. Teferi is slightly cheaper, assuming that he's just going to plus. Gives him a wider range of things to draw to the next turn. For example, you play a land number 6 and you play Teferi, then you get the opportunity to Snapcaster and a 1-mana spell, which you can't do with Jace. But Jace is probably just more powerful in the abstract, brainstorming versus drawing a card.
Jace does feel more powerful, but Teferi's got more loyalty.
I think that Bastecki's if Bastecki gets close to being able to attack one of them, he's probably got enough to just win the game outright.
Okay.
So I suspect it's, do you want Allen to get more looks at it, or are you willing to risk Allen getting specifically to draw Snapcaster Mage and pair it with a removal spell the next turn?
Here's Teferi.
And Bastecki has to play around more than just Snapcaster Mage. There's a whole litany of cards that Allen can draw to. So I think the Brainstorm is just so much more threatening compared to drawing a random card that Bastecki's going to play through it.
Well, he's certainly going to try. As Bastecki will draw a card, sitting at 8 life. Teferi on the battlefield, unclear if it can be ignored.
Allen's just pretty high. I mean, Bastecki's draw step, I believe, was a Death Shadow.
It was indeed.
A route there is to just play the Death Shadow, have it get killed, and hope that you can set up some claim to fame flourish.
The attack for 1, and now the Shadow. Bastecki will pass the turn back over to Zach Allen. 3 mana here. Esper Charm.
Whew.
Draw 2. A little surprised to see that after sideboard, perhaps.
But it's taken him this far, all the way to the top 8.
Esper Charm on the draw, huh? Bolder than me.
Yeah. You and me both.
But pretty good here. I mean, he just couple more answers. Anything he draws, he should be able to cast. It's all pretty cheap. And just a few more answers, and I think Bastecki's going to be out of this one.
There's a Flooded Strand there for Zach Allen. Now we're going to head back over to Bastecki, who's looking at a Teferi that has 6 loyalty counters, and a player in Zach Allen has access to 6 mana, and it looks like at least 1 copy of Cryptic Command in hand. Also think I see a Logic Knot over there, so it's not getting any easier for Bastecki, who wants to check what's going on in Allen's graveyard. I don't think he's going to like what he sees, has to think about Snapcaster Mage. And now he has to try to play around everything, or potentially, partner, try to play around nothing and hope for the best.
His spot's not getting better. So I think we're going to see, even if it's a totally wild shot here, I think we're going to see Bastecki do his best to win the game as fast as possible, even if it means playing around absolutely nothing.
And he says, I'm going upstairs at you, because that's all I can afford to do.
Death Shadow and Monastery Swiftspear going after Zach Allen, not after the Teferi. This will be 4 mana. This will be Cryptic Command. That'll bounce Death Shadow and allow Zach Allen to draw a card. And Zach Allen says, I am fine with taking 1 from your Swiftspear. I'm at 10. Such a healthy life total for our Esper control player, who is really starting to dig in and take control of this game. As Allen's going to sacrifice a Flooded Strand in response to this Death Shadow being placed onto the stack. We might see that Logic Knot in just a moment to counter that. And then it doesn't take much more than that.
I mean, if Allen can keep the shields up here and have something back in his hand to prevent him from getting killed by haste, threat, plus flurry of stuff, he's not that far away from a Teferi emblem, and from there he can just very passively go about winning the game. I expect Bastecki to tap out before Allen technically wins, should we get to that point.
There is El Logico. That will take care of the Death Shadow. If you're Alex Bastecki, we know what he's trying to set up. And he's not going to get to anymore. He was trying to set up Claim to Fame this entire game. Now, Fame still being in the graveyard, it has Aftermath, so it can be played.
Yeah.
But Zach Allen is on to what was going on there. And now Zach Allen says, I'm going to put your Monastery Swiftspear, I'm going to tuck it away with Teferi. Not that concerned with getting to the emblem, so Bastecki is going to sacrifice his fetch land, fall down to 7. It'll be a tie game here. And then put the Swiftspear back a couple cards down. So there goes the Swiftspear, thanks to the Teferi. Hollow to Fountain enters the battlefield tapped. Now Bastecki will draw a card. I think he may have picked up a copy of Mutagenic Growth. It actually ends up being a copy of Mishra's Bauble. Both can be played for free, and both are not particularly good in this situation. As Bastecki sees what Allen is going to draw for the turn, the slow trip will allow Bastecki to draw another card. We'll head back to Zach Allen, who's going to draw another card himself with the Teferi.
I think I would prefer for him to activate the bauble during Allen's turn there. Allen's shown Thoughtseize, so Esper Charm as well. So I'd rather have the draw step coming into my own turn. I guess Esper Charm gets you in the draw step regardless, but the Thoughtseize is a small consideration.
Going to be a Glacial Fortress there for Zach Allen. Well, speaking of Esper Charm, a card I know all too well being played here by Zach Allen. Targeting Alex Bastecki because it only has one mode that targets. That target player discards 2 cards. Alex Bastecki will discard those 2 cards as we head back over to Zach Allen, who's starting to run away with it, folks. He was our lone undefeated player here this weekend at 10-0. I take that the last undefeated player, pardon me. However you spin it, it's been a great weekend for him here in Cleveland, and it's not done just yet, as there's a Field of Ruin activation.
And this game has been a surgical picking apart. And a lot of Bastecki's sort of, single card concerns that Allen has to be mindful of, like claim to fame, they're gone. So
it's only a matter of time now. How much longer does Bastecki want to endure this? With the Teferi on the battlefield providing answers for basically everything, or more card advantage and working towards an emblem, and Zach Allen's life total being what I would consider to be high enough to not be nervous.
Bastecki's not going to be able to do anything in this game that involves getting back to his own turn. It's really just Monastery Swiftspear that's gives him any shot here, and he's got to do it backed up by a lot of cards, and he has nothing in hand right now.
There'll be a Death Shadow here for Alex Bastecki.
And Zach Allen has Logic Knot in hand. If I'm Allen, I'm saving that for Monastery Swiftspear, assuming you have other ways to manage.
Looks like he's going to use El Logico right now instead.
Yeah, I mean, I guess with Bastecki having 0 cards in hand, you're not super concerned about the Swiftspear. But my heuristic here is counter spells for the haste stuff and let your main phase interaction take care of everything that doesn't have haste.
Because the main phase interaction is looking pretty darn good right now as we head back over to Zach Allen. He'll play a fetch land and pass the turn back over to Alex Bastecki. Bastecki will simply pass the turn back over to Allen. Allen is going to crack that fetch land and fall down to 6. We'll go back Zach's way now. Putting the finishing touches on this game with Teferi is what our Esper Control player is doing. And it will be an opt to maybe trying to find a way to get things done a little bit faster, so you can get one step closer to the semifinals. Teferi will, of course, untap that land. We go back over to Alex Bastecki. He'll pass the turn back. Allen will draw. Teferi is up to 8, starting to threaten an emblem now. And Allen, with all those cards in hand, will play it opt again. He will scry 1. Top card will become the bottom card. So new card coming here for Zach Allen. Picked up a copy of Thoughtseize. Don't think there's much of a reason for him to play it. He'll untap that land from Teferi. We'll head back over to Bastecki, who will draw. It's that hopelessness you feel when you're playing against Teferi and all those lands untapped. We've all been there.
Oh, there's no way I'm casting an op last turn. I'm saving that for the emblem.
Saving that for the emblem, yeah.
I'm taking that with me.
I was thinking the same thing.
Because Bastecki's deck is an extremely satisfying deck to Stone Rain. Like they don't get to cast colors of cards anymore.
I like the way you think. That is going to do it. The cast down on the Death Shadow is enough for Alex Bastecki to concede this game and match to Zach Allen, who will take a deep breath and get ready for his next match, folks.